Thanks so much, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see everybody. And I'm really thrilled today to welcome Sue Horne. Now, Sue has an outstanding career, and it's a fascinating career. For somebody who went to Cape Canaveral when he was about sort of 29 and queued up with the kids to have his photograph taken with the little spaceman suit there, it's especially exciting for me. Sue's got a distinguished career, and it's a really special week for Sue this week because on Tuesday, Sue, you received your OBE from the Prince of Wales at Windsor Castle. And it's very special. And that's another round of applause, I feel. And many congratulations for that. And I thought by means of an introduction, I would look at what the Space Gazette said about you when they were mentioning the fact that you've got your OBE, because it gives a little bit of a background and it would help everyone place into context the amazing career that you've had, which we'll come on and talk about shortly. So Sue Horne, former head of space exploration at the UK Space Agency, has been recognised with an OBE in the King's Birthday Honours List for her exceptional work, contribution to space exploration and Mars science over the past 2 decades. Sue is one of the several individuals from across the space and astronomy community to be honoured this year, reflecting the wide range of talent and dedication driving the UK's progress in space science, education and industry. The honour acknowledges Sue's pivotal role in building, shaping and championing the UK's Mars science community, establishing the UK as a global leader in planetary exploration with a presence on nearly every active Mars mission. I got more, Sue, to go through. Sue, who was first awarded an MBE in the year 2000, New Year's Honours List for her services to space, served at the UK Space Agency until her retirement in March 2024. She led the exploration team during defining moments for the UK space sector, overseeing the agency's role in Tim Peake's historic mission to the International Space Station. Sue developed and delivered the strategy for the UK space exploration efforts, including participation in the European Space Agency's exploration program and the ExoMars mission, resulting in the British industry leading the build of Rosalind Franklin Mars rover. Her work spans support for scientific instruments developed by industry and academia, investment in future technologies, and funding for research and outreach activities. So Paul Bate, who's the CEO of the Space Agency, said of Sue, Sue's recognition is thoroughly deserved and reflects her immense contribution to the UK's space exploration capabilities. Her dedication not only advanced our scientific understanding, but has established the UK as a key player in international Mars research, not the bar. What makes Sue's achievements even more remarkable is her commitment to nurturing the next generation of space scientists and her passionate advocacy for women in STEM. Her legacy extends far beyond her scientific accomplishments, creating pathways and opportunities that will benefit our space sector for years to come. A passionate and articulate advocate for the UK space sector, Sue has consistently championed national space initiatives, playing a key role in raising public awareness and support for the country's space ambitions. And beyond her professional achievements, Sue has been a powerful advocate for women in STEM, offering support, mentorship, and inspiration in a predominantly male-dominated sector. She has fought successfully to allow female researchers to work part-time during their funding periods, ensuring talented women aren't lost. Through personal mentoring, community care, career events, and active engagement with the scientific community, Sue has helped ensure the continued pipeline of diverse talent for the UK space sector. Sue, that's quite...
yeah.
I mean, that is out of this world, isn't it? And perhaps I want to touch on some of those aspects of your career, but did you think when you were a little girl being brought up in the Peak District in Derbyshire that your career would take you to those interplanetary and beyond realms which you've become so well known for?
Oh, absolutely not, because in those days you thought space, it's America. So you just didn't, when I was young, I didn't realise that the UK actually had people doing space science. And I think my first ambition was to be a librarian.
Well, there's still time.
You didn't see my husband's book collection.
Right. So how did it all evolve then? I mean, so your background, I think, is not space related. Your degree isn't space related as such.
No, I have never planned my career ever. And I've always done things that I've enjoyed doing. I could never choose between humanities and science. So I did a very mixed blend at A-level. Michael Woods was on the television at that point. So I actually ended up doing a archaeological sciences degree because that was sparking my interest at the time. And I chose to go to Bradford. It was the only university did do that course, but actually they looked after their students. When I went for my interview, there was a man on the door looking for lost-looking people and coming out and saying, are you coming here for an interview, and making sure you were comfortable. And that attitude drew me to that institution. Right. They were caring.
And I suppose caring and nurturing is something which has been the golden thread through your career, really, because we'll talk about the way in which you bring people on in terms of leadership. But the degree that you did was very much grounded and almost looking at the past.
Yes.
And yet you've spent your whole latter career looking to the future and where we might be, where we have been, and where we might be in say, the next 100 years or so. It's a sea change of direction, isn't it?
It was, and it was just pure accident. After my degree, I went and did carbon-14 dating in Harwell, because you had to move south to get a job, basically at that point. And I was short-term contracts, and then I got a mortgage, and short-term contracts wasn't ideal. It was nerve-wracking. So I got a permanent job, applied for several, and this one at the research councils came up, which was managing research, and I'd found that actually I was quite good at managing a laboratory and things. And it sounded fascinating. And one of the things I've always enjoyed is learning new things. And you were put outside your discipline and you were moved every 2 years. So the first topic I did was building research. Great, learned everything you need to know about air conditioning, central heating, all sorts of things.
It's quite warm in here today, so I remember that. Anyway, by the way.
Yeah. And then I was moved into doing Earth observation. And that is looking at the Earth from satellites. At that time, there was the depletion of the ozone layer, so it was important. But that was an emerging field at that point. And part of my job was to try to encourage people into that field. We'd done a lot of X-ray astronomy, and one of the ideas was perhaps try and persuade the X-ray astronomers to move disciplines. Wasn't all that successful in that, but we did develop that community and start to develop that community. And then I moved into space science, because I'd done my couple of years, moved into space science. And that was brilliant. New lot of science, and the space science is sort of using satellites, looking away from the Earth, looking deep into the universe, emerging stars, how the universe came about, and then I started specialising strategically on planetary science. I was still managing the whole of the space program, all the instruments we were building in the UK, but looking at strategy, specialised on planetary science. And it came about, there was a changing the research councils. They put all the big expensive sciences together, so particle physics, astronomy were all together. And there was a decision that moving someone every 2 years was not the sensible thing for that, because the projects take so long. So we went to a system actually where you specialised in your area. So I stayed with space science for quite a few years.
So if they hadn't have made that decision, you might have gone back to archaeology.
Potentially, yes.
And
or
by
chemistry,
yeah,
or biology, all sorts of things. And we just would have been moved to another discipline.
So by luck,
my career is Sherlock all the way.
There's a top tip there for everybody. But you said earlier, you have to enjoy what you do.
Yes.
So you clearly, and by your subsequent career, have enjoyed space sector. I mean, and being distinguished in it. Why did you enjoy it so much? Why did it float your boat?
I think it's all about knowing where things come from, how they began, how they developed. I'm thinking about it actually. That links back to the archaeology. Just trying to understand how things evolved, so how they are now, and then projecting forward and how they might be in the future. So that basic understanding from where did we come from,
and where are we going?
Yes,
and an inquisitive mind,
right.
Obviously, because of the way in which your career has developed. You seem to put everything into it. And certainly from the conversations we've had, it fascinates you still. You're interested in it, and I suppose that's a tip for business and for people in the audience as well. You have to love what you do, and you said that.
Yes, if I stopped loving what I was doing and finding the interest there, I would move and do something else. I think that's why my career hasn't been planned. It's just that's what's interesting in me at the moment. That looks interesting. Let's go with it. And I think another philosophy I have is there's no point in having knowledge if you don't share it.
Okay. And over the years, you've shared that knowledge, and you were at the very inception, really, of the UK space program. And importantly, you had to gather people around you to be able to support it and to drive the space program forward from the UK's perspective. Yeah,
well, it was quite well developed in certain areas when I arrived. The X-ray astronomy and solar physics and understanding the ionized atmosphere. We were quite strong on that. But one of the first things I was given to do was to give a presentation to the planetary science community. And at that time, the strategic decision made was that we couldn't be competitive with America. We would not do planetary science. And I think one of my first presentations was to that community to say, we will not be funding a mission to Mars.
Right.
Sort of think about doing other things. We just talk, never say never.
Never say never. And then you spent many years actually working on that.
And the other thing I learned was that my boss always sent me to do presentation when the answer was no. So some communities, Susie, it's going to be no. Don't put your staff in that position. If it's bad news, do it yourself.
And I'm intrigued as well about the way in which your leadership style, because if you don't mind me saying so, you're very thoughtful and you're very considered in how you approach things. And we've had a couple of conversations before this. And there's different leadership styles, isn't there? And it seems to me from what we've spoken about is your style is very much a bringing together, a collegiate style, consensus, and developing people. How did you go about that?
I think it's, well, to start with, recognise your own weaknesses and strengths. So you can, yeah, I'm not one of those that says, this is your weakness, go and do it all the time, so it's a strength. But knowing it's a weakness, so when you've got to do it, to plan ahead and really work with your strengths. So trying in the space sector, no one's good at everything. You've got to find the balance of people. So you've got the best minds for each area. There are very few scientists who can manage projects. I think I've come across one. Right? They can either manage or they can do the science. But and he would have been really irritating if he wasn't so nice, because he could do both. So if you want to get something done well, you need to bring the best to it. And also, they have to be invested in it. They want to do it.
Yeah.
So in developing strategies, it's not what it's not just what I'm thinking. You go out, you have meetings, you let people input, you bring the best of collect the ideas and bring it together. So people have an investment in that.
And it's hugely important to you as well, isn't it, that you've championed women, and when you were first starting off in your career in space, the women were very much considered in second place. How have you managed to be that advocate, and how has it been received throughout your career while you've done that?
I think it's been received well. Quite often, you find it's getting the first woman in. I actually once went to a university, I won't name it. I was sitting in the meeting, and I was thinking, the atmosphere feels strange. And then I realised there wasn't a single woman there. Right. And it wasn't that they were anti-women, it was just that they were men together. And getting that first woman in sort of breaks that. And then I've been thinking about this. When I grew up, it was very strange. I was in an area where there were no other girls. Every family had boys. So I was used to being surrounded by boys. So, and I did maths. So it was a group of me and 28 boys. And I did technical drawing. So I was the only girl there. So I'd grown up being the only girl and just used to that. So I'm quite comfortable in that situation. And you get some women that can cope with that. So if you can get those in, it breaks out those strange atmospheres, and it allows other women who don't have that background, aren't I won't say strong, but it is strange. You can feel strange in those atmospheres. And once you've broken it and they come in and they're saying, the scientists are open-minded. They actually most times didn't realise that there were these barriers. I think the other big barrier in academia at that point was having a family, because the thing that mattered was your publication record.
Right.
Having a career break means that your publication dips horrendously. And just giving women the opportunity to have that career break and come back and it be recognised and allowances made. And one of the things when I first started, you couldn't take a research fellowship part-time. It was full-time or nothing. So when I was developing the planetary science community, one of the first things we did was start up a fellowship program to support young scientists, to support the future leaders. And what I made sure was that actually you could do that part-time. It was a 3-year fellowship, but if you wanted, you could do it over 6 years and do it part-time. And I did that for about a couple of years, and then was talking to one of the guys, and we changed the rule so that men could do it part-time as well, so they could look after, because if you've got 2 academics, it might be better that the man takes the career break. So we actually evened it up.
You're talking about changing the planetary sector for as if it's just, you know, a throwaway line. I mean, you have been instrumental in defining and designing how we in the UK look at space and the space program. I mean, it must fill you with immense pride to look back on your career. I mean,
that is, I think that is my biggest thing. I look at the community now that we've developed. We started in 2006 with the fellowship scheme, and that was specifically to encourage the bright people, the people that will be leaders in the future. And now they're the leaders, and it is just brilliant. And talking to them, it is fantastic. And the students that we've brought on, and because talking to them, one of the things I've always been aware of is because I had a research background with short-term research contracts. I've always tried to look after the researchers, to make sure that the reviews we do that will be extending their contracts, if we get an extension, are done in a timely manner. That also, disasters happen in space. My one and only launch event, I saw the rocket blow up.
Oh,
well. And this was in French Guiana. I came back, went straight into work because we had to do the media around it. And also, what do we do with all the people we've got employed to work on this project? It's not their fault. And I went to the person who is in charge of the rules, and she said, "Oh, well, we can just cancel the grants." It's not their fault that they've now got science. So we actually set up a process that allowed them to think about what to do in the future, where they could move to, what projects they could move to, and gave them that grace to sort of 6 months period to try and sort out where they're going. And then we went back and we changed the grant rules so that in the future, if this happened again, it was actually set out that we would give so many months' notice.
It seems to me that, you know, the skills that you displayed is leadership and diplomacy and bringing people together and quite steely decision making that you've taken. And I guess that's been particularly in evidence when you're dealing with NASA and the Russian space program, which you would have had to deal with through your career. NASA and Russia, compare and contrast.
It's okay to partner with them if you're doing what they want.
Okay.
Both of them, I would say, are unreliable partners.
Right.
I've worked with NASA a lot. It's great, but they can change their mind what they're going to do. And if that's the case, you are left out in the cold. The first project I came across was a Cassini-Huygens mission, and it was going to do an asteroid flyby and we got investment there, and NASA decided they weren't going to do the asteroid flyby, so then that went. When we started on ExoMars, we were collaborating with America. They were going to provide several elements. It actually put JPL's nose out of joint because they did Mars rovers and no one else did.
JPL?
JPL is a laboratory, jet propulsion laboratory.
I thought so.
Sorry, we talk in acronyms, and quite often I've forgotten. I use the acronym so often I've forgotten what it means. And they actually, NASA withdrew from the program, left us in a hole, and 6 months later, they announced they were going to do a Mars rover.
Right.
And that was pressure from JPL. They didn't want other people in on the game. And I've had very good relationships with senior people at NASA.
Yeah.
I can host a good meeting in the UK.
I bet.
Russia, on the other hand, they similarly they will pull out of things. I think the problem with Russia is a lot of their people from the past have retired and they've lost some of that expertise. The other thing is you can't criticise your boss. So it's very hierarchical. You have to be very strong. We partnered with Russia on ExoMars after the Americans pulled out because Russia wanted to get back into mainstream planetary science and highly visible things. So yeah, that was a good partnership. We couldn't see some of the things they were doing, and because we knew they'd lost experience, we were nervous. They were looking after. They were going to deliver the descent rockets onto Mars. So if that goes wrong, you've got a big hole in Mars. And the way Europe and America work is you have a no-fault system. It's okay to look at something and say, is this a problem? Is the design right? Have you thought about? And that's fine, because you want the best. You want it to work. In Russia, that's not the case, and it's not very visible. And we wanted more visibility. We had a meeting in Russia, and I discussed with the ESA people because we were getting nowhere. And in the middle of the meeting, I actually stood up and said, if it carries on like this, I'm going back to my agency and recommending we withdraw the money. And that's how you had to deal with Russia. And suddenly it changed. And that's how you had to deal with Russia, is strength.
I think in many areas, perhaps. In many areas. You mentioned Mars. You were part of the space agency whilst the whole program to Mars began. What is the future, do you think? Will we get there? And what part will Europe and the UK play in that?
Right. Eventually, we will have people on Mars. Not as quickly as America say, because they are always over-optimistic with the timescales because it looks good. My one concern is potentially, very remotely, there might be life on Mars. Now, Mars developed, but it won't be. It will be bugs, if anything. Right? So my personal view is we've sort of messed up the Earth. Let's not mess up Mars. So you've got to do it very carefully, and that's one of the things about the missions now. are concentrated on looking for where and when life might have existed on Mars, and actually is there any evidence of that, and is there any evidence of current life of this type thing, and then you know much more about sending humans there, and there's also a lot of experiments about what's the environment, so how do we deal with the radiation if we send a human there. So if there is life on Mars, is it right for us to send people? You see in the past what happened to America when Europeans went to America and took diseases. It could also happen the other way. You could have diseases, something on Mars that affects the humans.
And then they bring them back.
Yeah. So at the moment, one of the things about sending a spacecraft to Mars is it has to be really clean. We don't want to send bugs to Mars. So a thumbprint on a Mars rover is sufficient dirt for it not to fly.
I bet you didn't think you'd be hearing about this morning, did you? I bet. I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and we were talking last night as well about the relationship between space and business as well, and we were talking about a business, was it Space Forge?
Yeah.
From Wales.
Yes, Cardiff.
From Cardiff, and actually beginning a manufacturing process in space because of the cleanness of space, and then bring it back to Earth, and it being far more commercially viable as a result. Do you want to just outline what that was? Because it seems to me that there's an application for space, which is not just exploration, but it's also commercial.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things. I'm not in favour of space tourism, but actually utilising space to develop things. We've used the ISS to understand materials and how material, because you haven't got gravity there, so you've taken away a fundamental force that's on Earth, and you can understand things better. What you can do, as Space Forge is looking at a commercial venture, that you can produce crystals in space which are pure and follow the crystal structure really exactly. So they're looking at manufacturing silicon in space, bringing it back to Earth. You can then grow those crystals on and use them for chips, and those chips are 3 times more efficient than what we can produce on Earth. So it's a small satellite. It is only that big. You send it up to, you've got the vacuum of space. It's very clean. You've not got gravity. You can produce those things and bring them back to Earth.
But robotic.
Yeah, robotically. You don't want humans there. They're dirty. Humans are dirty.
You heard it here first. Yeah. I mean, that's an incredible application of where space makes a commercial difference. Will we be seeing more of that in the next
yes.
30, 50 years?
I think so, yes.
And the future of of manned space travel, you know, we talk about rovers on Mars and we talk about the thumbprint and where is that going? Will we colonize the moon?
There's talk of having sustained presence on the moon. Sustained is being used as a word that is accepted, can be interpreted in several ways, so it's acceptable to the majority. So some people think of sustained as always having a presence on the moon. Others define it as having regular presence rather than full time. I think we have to. It's expensive space. To do a mission to Mars, and there's also politics. A lot of countries are going to the moon at the moment because it's seen to be shine a light on their country as being a big country, being able to do these things. So a lot of it is political. Some of it is science. Some of it is technology. So I think eventually there'll be humans to Mars. It will be funded by governments, I think, in the first instance. What we need to be careful of what has happened in the past on the International Space Station was that was so expensive, it stopped investment up to the moon.
Okay.
And that lunar program died out while the International Space Station. What we must ensure is that if we want to go to Mars, is that we don't get into a similar hole on the moon, that we're going to the moon and it stops us going further. Now the question is there a business on the moon that could then be done commercially? And there are people looking at sort of oxygen production and things on the moon you would then use as rocket fuel to go onto Mars and various things. I am not certain yet whether they've identified the real commercial field, but people are looking at it.
I'm going to throw open for questions shortly, but you mentioned the International Space Station. I mean, I'm one of those who stand in my front garden with binoculars in the darkness of November nights, watching it come over, and trying not to get arrested with binoculars in a built-up area. I mean, you've had enormous experience with the International Space Station, and Tim Peake. You work very closely with Tim Peake in his time on the station. What's your reflections on that time, and does it bring you joy, or was it a tough time? You can be honest.
Both.
Both.
Both. A lot of my job was money and politics towards the end. The politics around involvement in the International Space Station is very hard. I have seen discussions between countries on there. My astronaut's younger than yours, they shouldn't count. It's a real conversations. And a lot of it is about how much money you put on the table, what can you do? So there's huge politics there, huge arguments. I have spent a whole 3-day meeting locked in a room with the Germans arguing about declarations of intent. So there's some of it that is really painful. But then if you stand back, what Tim did for encouraging students to take up science, technology, maths is incredible. The figures we got out from that are incredible, and it was just worth doing it for that. But and you've got the science that you can do on the International Space Station, not having gravity there, understanding materials, the actual all the medical stuff you do about astronauts so that they can go up to space is actually beneficial back on Earth. Going up to space is like aging very quickly. So understanding that, the countermeasures for that feeds into medicine back here on Earth.
Incredible. I've got loads more questions, but I don't want to monopolize completely. I'm sure there are questions from the floor. Okay.
I'll do it. And there's so many questions I think I mentioned about I'm interested from your perspective. How messed up is it?
No, I'm not. I think it's messed up. I think we can secure the future. I think if we're serious, we can sort it out. It would be painful, and we've got to collaborate, and we've got to persuade other people that it's important to do. But we've certainly had such a big impact on the environment and the climate. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
It's like you were saying, it's all about bringing people together. It's collaboration. It's talking. Seems to there's, you know, and we live in a world where not enough of that takes place at the minute. They could learn from you. So. And then, yeah.
Thank you very much. I was wondering, throughout your career, what events, relations, or something that you hadn't expected to see or didn't see something
It was the cluster, the explosion of the Ariane 501 rocket. We invest, space missions are long, you invest years on them. For an example, we started the Rosetta mission to a comet, landing on a comet. I was pregnant. It landed on that comet. My son was in his final year at university. That's the duration of some of these missions. Cluster wasn't quite that long, but people had invested an awful lot of time and just mental energy and committed. One of the academics I worked with, he was a lovely man, had recently died. We'd arranged for his wife and his son to go out and see the launch. And we watched it, and it blew up spectacularly. And that was the first time I'd actually come across, in reality, what disaster could be in the space sector. And we actually hadn't really thought it through. And I learned such a lot from that experience, because we hadn't got the media plan, what happens in the worst case scenario media plan. So we were very desperately quickly sorting that out. So going back and sorting out how to deal with the academics, but just that all that work has potentially gone down the drain. We did actually rebuild it and fly it, but for 6 months to a year, we weren't sure that we would be doing that. So I think that was probably the low point. So it was that one was a software error.
It's that poem, isn't it? That Rudyard Kipling poem, if you can meet a triumphant disaster. And it's how you respond, I think. As a leader as well, how you respond to those things which come and knock you.
My response is, this is a problem, how do I deal with it?
Yeah.
And it's not till later that it sort of hits me. It hits me.
It's leadership under pressure.
Yeah.
Did you, oh, so I thought you, yes, it was here, sorry.
I think it is trying to get that plan. How do we getting that plan in place, and seeing that you're working on it and trying to resolve the problem, even if you haven't yet resolved the problem, that you are putting all the effort into to resolve the problem, and consulting people and asking them what they think. Have they got any bright ideas? How would they go about it?
More questions? Oh, one here and then one at the back.
Amazing, thank you. I'm interested in the leadership stuff. You mentioned about scientists not necessarily being great project managers. I don't know if this is fair to say, but generally people who are very technical leadership is sometimes stressful. Is that something that came very naturally to you, work on
I never thought of myself as a leader.
And yet you led.
Yeah,
And yet you led.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just come. It's one of those things that sort of come naturally. There are other things I'm absolutely hopeless at. So I recognise that I can't sing. I love to sing, so I sing in the car where it won't hurt anyone.
But it's that self-awareness, isn't it, as well? I think which is hugely
and the other
important.
thing is I get hangry.
Okay.
And
Bring the biscuits in.
As I've got older, it gets worse. So I want people that I've worked with, I say, look, I recognise it and try and hold myself back, but I also, my immediate team actually know I get hangry.
Before you get angry, we'll go to the next question.
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old who you might have seen. Do I need to prepare for losing him to the US, or are we doing that?
There is a very strong industry in this country. Potentially not rockets, but we have a huge telecommunication industry. Airbus Space and Defence support a lot of people. There are a lot of small companies as well. So you can work in this country. Europe has a strong industry as well. There's lots of companies there. I would recommend that he tries, moves around, gets experience and contacts. Also recommend he does language, which people don't. It's a weakness in the UK. You actually can get quite a long way, but it does help having that bit of language to be appreciated by others. I'm not very good at languages. I did do languages at school. I did do French and German to a certain level. I can understand. I'm just not very good at conversing. But just having that amount helps the relationship. And if you're serious to do Europe, to work in the European Space Agency, you really, unless you're a high flyer and you're being picked, you have to have another language, even if you don't use it when you're there.
My question is a little bit more around the left that you've experienced over the years, jumping from one role to another. Sue and I both work at Express, and I suppose we've got a passion around inspiring curiosity, which I think is what is taking me on that journey. Do you think we do enough to inspire curiosity?
Oh, you never do enough. It's the immediate answer. We do far more than we did. We are a lot better. And I think, well, the first time I started was in Space Science. Before that cluster, we had 3 launches. The cluster launch, the Soho launch, and Cassini-Huygens. And it was the first time we really took at talking to children seriously. And we decided, yes, we are going to try and make a difference here. So we did schools information packs. We blue Peter competition, first of 2. I think we can always, but we are so much better now. There's so much more going on. I think that there's always more we can do. But I think TechniQuest and those, and working together, so bringing bringing expertise from different areas, bringing people who've got experience and just talking to schools. I used to do quite a few schools talks because it lifted me out of the problems. In sort of the second half of my career, I was known as being a good project manager who could solve the problems. So if there was a problem, I was put in there. So all I saw was the problems. And going and doing schools talk, talking to, because they're so inspiring themselves, doing that just lifted you and it's like, oh God, yes, it is amazing what we're doing.
Another question, but it must be the final question, but coming up to our hour. I said it would go quick.
Oh yeah. I thought, what a waste of money and resources. Honestly.
Not a fan of space tourism.
I am not a fan of space tour. They could have done so much more. They could have talked to kids. They could have done so much more with that experience. But it was all about me, all about what I'm doing. No. It costs, to give you an idea of the cost, it costs about £70,000 per kilogram to get something into space. Just into space.
Which is why Mark said last night that it would cost me an awful lot. Which wasn't terribly kind, but never mind. I'm so over it. Barry had one tiny little question before we wrap up.
Yes. Yeah.
60.
I think there's only been one, The Martian. My son said I ruined the film for him because we sat there watching it and I kept saying, "You can't. That's not possible. You can't." But Thunderbirds, I'm a great fan of Thunderbirds. What I have a good story about that. The guy who made the Thunderbird, Jerry Anderson. He went to the Rutherford Space Laboratory at Harwell, went to visit there. The scientists there were in awe of Jerry Anderson, and he was in awe of them. And several times I've looked at the space mission and thought, that reminds me of Thunderbirds. The mission, the mission at the moment that's sort of doing a close encounter with the sun, and I said, yeah, I can remember that on Thunderbirds.
Well, Sue, we're in awe of you, I have to say. And in my introduction, I left off the last paragraph of that article. And it's something that Libby Jackson, formerly the UK Space Agency and now head of space at the Science Museum, said. I had the great pleasure of working alongside Sue for more than a decade at the UK Space Agency, and I'm absolutely delighted to see her receive this honour. It is so richly deserved and a fitting tribute to a career that has had a lasting impact on the fields of space science and exploration in the UK. Her legacy isn't just in the missions or milestones that she has been an integral part of delivering. It is in the people she has empowered and the future she has helped shape, myself included. I think that's a fitting way to end what's been an amazing hour. And thank you so much, Sue, for giving us your time and also speaking with us with such candidness and eloquence. And we've loved it. Thank you very much.